this evening. So, in 2017, a large working class British family began to experience bizarre poltergeist activity, including over 400 apported coins, many of which were captured on CCTV. Over the next 7 years, a nightmare unfolded for the family, and the case is still ongoing. With permission from the family, where their anonymity is maintained, this will be the first time the case has been spoken about in the public domain. The webinar will include actual events captured on the multiple CCTV cameras around the property as the story starts to be told. Could this be the UK's best documented poltergeist on record? Ladies and gentlemen, with Diary of Poltergeist, Tony Hayes.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Oh, and you didn't even draw breath. Well done. So, right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. A nice welcome distraction from the ongoing politics that's going on within ASSAP. So I think we all need a bit of distraction and get involved with something we all enjoy, which is the ghost hauntings and the poltergeist. So I'll move straight into this one. Claire's already mentioned that this is a case that's been ongoing now since 2017. Our involvement, together with the SPR, started in around October of 2022. So, because it's an ongoing case and obviously considerable amounts of anonymity is going to be applied, so I'm not going to be able to talk, unfortunately, about the location or the people's names in there. If we use names, it's going to be generally done with as an alias. I'm going to attempt to make it as interactive with you as possible. Don't worry, I'm not going to send a poltergeist to your house or anything like that, although the family would like to move it out, and if you want to have a poltergeist, the family are quite happy to send one over to you. But this is about trying to I'm looking to maybe you've got some information you can share with me. There's certainly a couple of questions I'll be certainly asking tonight, and I want to make it as interesting as possible and take our minds away from the drama that's unfolding at the moment. So all the data and everything we're sharing with tonight is also given specifically with the family's permission. So I hope you enjoy what I've got and you'll find it compelling. It's quite difficult, an hour, maybe hour and a half, to introduce you to a case of quite some length now. So we'll get straight into this. A couple of months ago, the lady householder went on the Haunted History Chronicles. And what I wanted to try and do with this is there are very few cases which are alive, ongoing as we speak, where you can listen to the investigators who have been involved with it and continue to be involved with it, and at the same time listen to the experiencer, the family there. Because when the poltergeist comes calling, rest assured there are victims here involved. So they do have an active Facebook page. If you go onto Haunted History Chronicles, look up the poltergeist case, and you'll actually hear the lady telling about what it's actually like to experience and live this nightmare that begins to unfold. So the thing is with the poltergeist is the reason why I put two drawings up here. One is at the bottom left. Certainly, some aspects of this case is you would deem as the label poltergeist, movement of items being apported, wrapping, that type of stuff. But running alongside it parallel was the ghosty stuff, the hauntings, which seem to run in tandem, what they sort of interlope between one or the other. And it leaves you in quite a difficult position where what is a poltergeist? How can we label this strange beastie that comes rarely comes calling? So when we actually speak of this case, if this case, for example, was in Timbuktu, we would call it the Timbuktu case. Generally, is we don't refer to it as a poltergeist, call it a case. And the reason for that is that if you look at the poltergeist itself, it does leave you with a certain number of dynamics. But what it does do, the minute I mention the word poltergeist, it will send to you your thoughts onto Enfield haunting, Borley Rectory, the South Shields poltergeist, the Bothell House, the Seattle Keith Linder's case, and so on and so forth. So you've got a general idea where I'm going to be going with this, but some of the phenomena is confusing, and this takes us quite nicely onto over recent times when people begin to look at other theories of what is the poltergeist. We've moved on since Enfield, where people around about that time, 1970s, were suggesting it was associated to a female reaching puberty, for example. We know that them times have since changed. So what are we dealing with? Are we dealing with a ghost? Are we dealing with some sort of entity, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis, human agent, within the ability of ourselves, some sort of hybrid energy form, something else entirely completely different that we're not even aware of yet. What we do know, to get the activity, you do need two components. One, certainly the human aspect, and two is the location. Why this stuff comes calling on particular households is the big mystery, because this is another case when we go through the triggers for this, that we simply haven't got a smoking gun. We don't know why this working class, large family have been subjected to this extreme activity. No explanation, but we still trying to look for a trigger. And if you've got any thoughts, please share them with us. And that comes over to a question. Does anyone know of a poltergeist case where the victim is a single person living alone? The closest I've come to this is probably Keith Linder when in the Seattle house in Bothell in Washington State. He was then living with his partner Tina at the time, just two people. I've not come across a case where there's a single person, unless you're going to tell me otherwise. But generally, it's associated with families. Is there a reason for that, or is that hypothesis incorrect? Anyone new to Poltergeist who generally want a starter book, I strongly suggest the book on the left, which is Poltergeist by John Fraser. What I like about this one is it's a fantastic introduction into what is we label as the poltergeist. It really follows on from Tony Connell and Alan Gold's Poltergeist book from the late 1970s, I think. John's added is the more modern descriptions in there as well. So hopefully Yinska will give a link to Amazon. So I strongly suggest if you haven't got much literature, look at that one. The book on the right is John's latest release. Now, what John in this one, I like about this book, I've now completed it, is it takes you on a journey. It's almost like an autobiography of John Fraser, really. I presume everyone knows who John is. And it reminds me of my own sort of experiences when I started out 37 years ago, how we begin to investigate cases and we begin to evolve, change of mind in a lot of respects as we move through. And John, towards the latter stages, introduces a different theory, which is how we're in fact dealing with one single paranormal power. So again, Yenska will put a link to Paranormal Box of Tricks. John does have some sort of copies of this at home. So if you want a signed copy, Yenska will hopefully pop John Fraser's email address and you can get a signed copy. Or what I suggest you do, go onto an Amazon where you can get Poltergeist or Box of Tricks. So there are other material out there, more modern day, is probably South Shields from Darren Ritson and the Keith Linder who wrote 3 books on the Seattle case, which is more detailed if you want to go into more into what the poltergeist is all about. A few weeks ago, Dr. Peter McHugh did an excellent webinar, and I decided to include that tonight, mainly because, in a way, Peter takes it on a stage further, where he's suggesting what we do need is a new terminology when we come to describe what it is a poltergeist actually is, and he may well have a point on that. What I've done now, I'm going to ask you a question. And what I'm interested in is I'm going to give you a scenario, and like I say, I want to make it as interactive and interesting as possible for you. And there's no tricks with this; it's just a bit of fun, really. Yinska is going to keep an eye on the general chat. So what the scenario I want to give to you, I want you to give me a number, right? Is imagine that you're investigating a poltergeist case for say 20 months. You're the case manager, and you're recording every incident that the family report to you. In 20 months, how many events would you be expected to deal with in that 20 months? So just pop a number, just don't worry. I can guarantee none of you are going to be right with this. So we'll see. If you just let me know, Jensky, when everyone sort of put a number in, and you can let me know. If you can give me the bottom, the lowest number, and the top number, that would be good. 3.
The highest so far is 517.
517.
And someone missed the question. Perhaps you could ask it again.
So the highest number is around 500.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right. The exact number of reports that we've had in the 20 months is 1,195. That's around 3 per day, with very few days of no activity. So that's the sort of numbers that we're talking about. I'm always interested. I have asked this question before of what people will think the amount of incidents that we're dealing with. So it's on that sort of high number. So it's interesting. So whoever come up with 500, pretty good going. Okay, a question that we all ask at the outset. We get that phone call, and suddenly you're being told this extraordinary story. We always will begin in our own mind to put, why is this call coming in there? So we're always looking for what is called the red flags. They don't want no media. The family want absolutely nothing to do with the media at all. They don't want any house move. In fact, over the recent years, they spent a considerable amount of money on the house. They don't want any fine either. They want no money, and they want no TV. And they have declined one TV show that made an approach that found them when their family, this is before our time, when they were on the internet, trying to find another group to try and get some answers. Having a TV show was not what the family was after. So there was absolutely no red flags here, which sort of is helpful when it is your first take on the case. As you've seen, we're dealing with 1,195 separate investigations of individual events over this 20 months. This has accumulated vast amounts of data, 6,500 files, 276 in-depth CCTV reports, investigations. I'll go back into the CCTVs in a short while, 70 gigabytes of data. This has been what we call a joint working arrangement with the SPR. I'll come more into detail, and the people have been involved with that shortly. So my job is to update the SPR, Spontaneous Case Committee, about every 3 weeks. So there's 33 in-depth reports that's gone into the SPR, because what's important is this was never about my case or our case. I just wanted to get genuine helping for this family, try and find the answers. We're all involved with the cyclical research. Is there something for us to learn? And I think we realised very early on this is quite a significant case, so we need to keep the data stream accurate as possible. We had to work with new working protocols, because obviously this case, because it's a joint working arrangement with SPR, we have to take into account the SPR's protocols. The SPR don't have a corporate opinion on the paranormal, for example. Ensure that we don't offer a expectation to the family. So we wouldn't say to the family, yeah, we'll get us in and we will stop it for you. There's been none of that expectation there. And obviously the SPR don't get involved with removals, because we don't, how the hell are you supposed to stop someone? We don't even know what it is. And we're generating multiple diaries, some of them are 120 plus pages. And at the same time, investigations, when you're dealing with a case of this extreme nature, is working within the UK GDPR protocols and so on. So getting to the key points of the of this is because I have got some video as well as audible to show you tonight. It's been an ongoing case since 2017. What I do know that after 35 months, it completely flatlined for 11 months, not a single piece of activity. And that coincided within days of the oldest daughter announcing she was pregnant. The reason why I mention this is it must be significant because it completely stopped. The daughter later, with the child, moved out of the property and is living elsewhere in another house. But it seems strange that it seemed to flatline after just simply 11 months. There have been multiple investigators that have been involved and currently involved, and all have been SPR members. Many people, yeah, you're going to be familiar with. So when I talk about the actual individual investigations, well, when I mention pay thanks to these people, you'll understand how this works. So currently, the case itself is being run by Paranormal Investigation UK, who I'm a part of. I'm an SPR member. There's Amanda Griffiths, my colleague at Staffordshire. Jenske from the Netherlands, also an SPR member, and SPR Dutch member, and Andy Drinkwater, who from our side. The idea initially was within 2 to 3 weeks, the case coming in from, of all people, came in from Keith Linder. Keith Linder spotted the family again on the internet, trying to seek help again, and introduce the family to me. I realised in a couple of weeks this is significant, and I touched base on a member-to-member basis with John Fraser. We shared various cases between each other over the years. John realised the importance, and over the next few months, and really it was John's baby idea, was to put together what they call a joint working arrangement with ourselves running the day-to-day operation, but working alongside the spontaneous case committee of the SPR. The SPR often don't get sufficient credit for what they do. They often work in the background in the radar, and this is my opportunity to pay thanks to this wonderful organisation, because without their involvement, we wouldn't have had the quality investigation that we've got today. So John Faze, obviously, it was his idea at the beginning. Dr. Graham Kidd played more of an important role over recent times because we now understand the psychology of the activity. He's a psychiatrist, psychologist. The advantage we have of working with organisations like the SPR. Ashley Nibbs, you're familiar with, Dr. Barry Colvin, audio specialist for the SPR, and more recently, Randy Lieback. Kieran Farrell also has been my liaison officer between ourselves and the SPR as the flow of information back into of trying to get answers. So there's a multiple investigative investigation that's all the way been. It's certainly not just mine, and it's not just my group. The SPR have to take some credit for that. In total, we had 3 investigations so far. The first investigation happened in the end of January 2023. That was partly funded kindly by the SPR. I'll acknowledge that. The case was around 3 months old at that point, and we were unsure of totally what was going on, because the big problem that I had in the November of 2023 is the case was 5.5 years old at that point, but we had absolutely no data to go on at all. The only thing we did have is about 160 videos that the family had taken over the years, and together with a report from Barry Garvey from Help My House is Haunted. Barry Garvey, in credit to him, he's the only person that actually took any sort of documentation on the property. So we were having to deal with the historical side of the case and the new coming in. So after 3 months, a decision was made to put 3 investigators on the ground, and they went in from Friday, Saturday and Sunday, staying at a hotel. And those 3 investigators, Caroline McKendrick, I'm quite sure you're all familiar with Caroline. She went in there with a partner, Martin Gibson, together with Kieran Farrell. This is always going to be like a hybrid reconnaissance visit, really. Take statements, which hadn't been done previously, weigh up the property, take some measurements. It was an interesting investigation without question, and well valued. So they did a great job there. In the June of 2023, the family went on holiday for 1 week. So what we decided to do then is hit it with COVID cameras. Cameras were all over the house when the family were on a holiday and the house was empty. If there's anything that we can take from that, it was not successful, apart from one light anomaly where the jury is very much still out on that one. There is really nothing happened there for that them 7 days, considering we had the cameras out 24/7. So it seems to be that with this type of activity, you do need the human element. So we did learn something from it. Then in the September of last year, we went back in the property, and now this time we stayed with the family on holiday for 6 days and stayed over for 5 nights, lived and like the family were, and that again was quite interesting. And of course, what the old problem with this sort of case is keeping control of the data flow. If you can imagine, for 365 days a year, I'm pretty confident I can say out of 360 days of the year, we will have daily contact with the family. So what we're dealing with is what platforms can we put in place where the family have got someone instantly they communicate with. So what we have is a WhatsApp group. We ourselves have various Facebook message groups, email, calling all and harvesting all this data to one point which became known as the diary. So if anyone's looking that, you know, when a case comes your way, how do I monitor and keep the data? A diary is a perfect way of actually going with it. If anything, I can probably be accused of having too much data, but to me, far better having too much than not enough. A quick one on the fraud aspect. Every single investigator on the planet will face this one at some point. Every case, poltergeist case, there are always elements or accusations, and that's all they are at the end of the day, of fraud. They've had it with Enfield, they had Bully Rectory, Keith Lindy was subjected to it, so with Darren Ritson at South Shields, Battersea, case after case after case. And from an investigator's point of view, what I've always tried to do is remain open-minded. Because once you start to get reported to your piece of evidence, your job is to investigate it. Your job isn't become judge, jury, and executioner. So I very rarely, when I come to write this up in the reports, which is the diary, I very rarely give an opinion. My job is just to investigate it. That way I can remain open-minded. And yes, it can be a difficult balance for any investigator to find, and I'm quite sure a lot of you know exactly what it is I'm talking about, is extraordinary claims sometimes require extraordinary evidence. But sometimes that's all you've got. Because if I was to contact you as an investigator and said, look, I've had the remote control, it's moved 2 foot across the coffee table, all the windows are shut, I'm on the house on my own. It's a straightforward personal experience. Who am I to say that I disbelieve that? Of course, if you got a camera there, a camera itself that may, as you'll see tonight, when you record all this, you've got the evidence, a so-called holy grail. But that itself begins a set of brings a new set of problems that you need to look at. Is it possible that the coffee table was leaning? Is it possible that it was wet and it slid away? And it's sometimes difficult, but the last thing that we need to do, investigators, and it's really important because when you get the first phone call off the family, it's they want to be believed. And it's a relationship which I've had now with the family for 20 months. And I hope it's in that time, it's been trouble-free. Of course, we consider the aspects such as misreporting, exaggeration, underreporting can happen as well, misinterpretation. But when it comes to, if you to ask me, in 1,195 incidents that reported, have I got a smoking gun that suggests fraud? No, I haven't. I haven't got that. Thinking and knowing are two completely different scenarios. So just a quick one. That I'm not trying to teach Granny to suck eggs, but it's a problem that I just needed to get back out there. So what I've got now is a little bit of fun for you, a bit of a pub quiz. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 4 situations or scenarios. And after each one, I want to tell me if you think this is true, I'm telling the truth, or false, I'm lying to you. Okay, just a bit of fun. Don't take it too seriously. I'll try to rattle through these as fast as possible because I know you want to get into the juicy stuff. So I'll start with the first one. And after each one, Young's going to keep an eye on it and just give me a percentage of what you think, what's your true and what you think are false. Okay. Okay. 3 investigators go into a property, haunted location. One smokes, one doesn't, one smokes cigarettes, you say, roll-ups. One smokes cigars, one doesn't smoke at all. Day 2, the cigars have disappeared and they were never seen again. Now, the reason why I say this is they've traveled some distance. So this big box of cigars are difficult. He smokes a particular brand of cigars. So he stopped up before he went to the property because he's going to be away for a few days. They know where they put them, but they disappeared and have never been seen ever again, together with a lighter. Okay, is that true or false? Yeah, I'll do number 2. Okay, some investigators go to a property. They've got one car picking the other 2 investigators up. When they first got there, they get there quite late on, about 9 o'clock at night. And they've put all the equipment boxes into the hallway on the left-hand side, piled up, 5 boxes, one on top of the other. The following day, when they get up, they need to go to the shop to get some supplies in because they're going to stay there for a few days. So, right, okay, where's the car keys? They can't find them. They search high and low. They know exactly where they put them. They speak to the TV operator. He's based a couple 100 miles away. He checks the cameras and said, yeah, you can definitely see walking in with the boxes and you've definitely got the car keys in your right hand and you put them into the kitchen surface. So they know they haven't left them outside or dropped them. So they've got to be in a house somewhere, but they can't find them. In the end, they walk to the shops. 7 o'clock that night, thinking I'm going to have to get in touch with insurance here. A set of carless key, £700-800 worth. Yes, I'll have to put a claim for the insurance. That night, they're setting up the CCTV camera system. Eventually, they can't find the monitor lead. They go to the bottom box, which is box 2, on the spare lead, to try and find the monitor cable. At the bottom of the box are the car keys. The boxes hadn't been opened since they left the investigator's property. So how did the car keys get there? True or false? Okay, after a couple of days, the investigators decided that they've done accurate maps of the property of this quite large house, but they now want to write on them. So that, okay, that's a shame. We need original intact copies. So what we'll do, we'll go and get photocopies. So eventually they find a neighbour, asked them the question. They're not from the area, they live some hundreds of miles away. Ask a neighbour, said, yeah, you just go down the local library, they do photocopy there, 5p a copy, whatever. All right, thanks very much. So they got the library, put it into Google, and they get the postcode. Pop it into the sat nav, and the sat nav takes them on the journey. Eventually, right, okay, take the next junction on the left, destination 200 yards on the left. So down the road they go, and right, destination reached, left-hand side. They look to the left, it isn't a library, it's a funeral director's. Check the postcode, still the same postcode. Why is it taking us there? So they haven't a clue what's going on. So in the end, like, look, we need to get into the town. We'll have to have a drive around. Anyway, they go to the very end of the road, turn right. There on the right-hand side is the library, and they carry on and get the printing. So the car satellite navigation, it's an inbuilt system. It had been 3 or 4 years old at the time, never caused a problem, and it's not caused a problem since that time. Did the poltergeist send them to the funeral directors? True or false? I think I've convinced anybody with that one. I've seen the numbers for you. Okay, here's the last one. The underwear phantom. Okay. 3 investigators in a so-called haunted property. Been there for a few days. On day 3, the same investigator is going to do exactly what he's done on the previous 2 mornings. Bit of a creature of habit. 9 o'clock, goes for a shower. But because the CCTV all over the property, is not going to walk from the bedroom across the hallway while I'm being monitored on CCTV. So he's kept his T-shirt on and the underwear. In his hand, he's got his clean hoodie, a T-shirt, clean underwear, together with his jeans. Goes into the bathroom, locks the door, places the jumper and the clean underwear together with the T-shirt on the steel radiator, drops the toilet seat and lid down, and drapes the clean jeans across the loo and across the window ledge, which is behind it. So they're there so they stay uncreased. Once he strips off, he throws the undergarments onto the floor. And the reason why he's done this is the previous 2 mornings, he gets out of the shower, drops water all over the place. And he's used the dirty garment to mop it all up, throws in a plastic bag, because end of the week, they're going to have a wash before they return home. So he gets his shower, does all that, gets out the shower, dries off, puts all his clothes back on, goes down to wipe up the water on the floor, and the undergarments are missing. So this causes some confusion. The door's locked. Where have they gone? So he now thinks, well, I want to pee anyway. Lifts the toilet seat up and the toilet lid. There, poked down into the loo of all the undergarments. True or false? Can you hear me okay, Yinsky? Yeah. Do you want to unmute and just give me an idea, 50-50, 30-40, and then I'll give everyone the results then.
Okay. On the cigars, 40% says it's true, and 60% says false.
Right, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, right. You ready for the results? All 4 are true and happened as explained. The cigars, these 2 people these are my cigars, why I find it quite annoying. They still haven't put an appearance in. That was witnessed by my colleague, Amanda Griffiths. The car keys, all 3 of us, Karen Fowler, Amanda, and myself, witnessed that. The sat nav was Amanda and myself, was in my car. We haven't got an explanation. There may be a rational explanation. The underpants one, in many respects, I wish it never happened, because there's no misinterpretation or exaggeration with this. I'm either lying to you, I'm telling you the truth. And I did have a problem with this, and I think as investigators, when you're actually on the receiving end of this bizarre stuff, who on earth's going to believe me when if I go into, say, I guess what's happened to me? A poltergeist nicked my underpants. They think you've gone to the planet or way to the moon, whatever. And I did initially have problems discussing this. It was actually John Fraser gave me confidence to do so. He referred me to Guy Lane Playfair's book, This House is Haunted, where he had a book that got reported back into a property. And Guy Lane Playfair had issues discussing it openly because it's something bizarre, and it's one of them things that happens to you. And there's no misinterpretation with this. I know exactly what happened, and I haven't got a rational explanation for that one. So, and it comes down to you as a listener, I'm saying I'm telling the truth, but you may think differently, and that's unfortunate because I want to be transparent with the case, and as I found in this scenario, I've got to include my own experience with that as well, even though people have got me thinking that guy's wired to the moon. So anyway, just a bit of fun. So I hope you enjoyed that bit. Okay, what do we know? I mentioned the phenomena stopped for 11 months after the uh, older daughter got pregnant. Other things we can say is it's highly reactive to increased stress levels. Another reason where the SPR came into the realm, particularly when you got Dr. Graham Kidd, the psychiatrist, he suggested some months ago that when the family report phenomena, we start to ask other questions, such as how does the house feel? And how do they feel within themselves? Now, yeah, I accept it's subjective because it's the individual themselves that are applying the number. But what we were able to determine is, for example, if the male household arrives in a bad mood, we generally will start to see phenomena occurring. Now, the problem with this hypothesis is that I've also now introduced into the female that if a partner arrives home after a bad day at work, she's going to expect phenomena. So she may herself subconsciously introduce a phenomena into the mix as well. We don't know, but we do know if we see increased anxiety, stress in how the phenomena begins to increase. Because I write the diary every single day, I spot things instantly. So we generally have odd days of no activity here, then be fine for 3 or 4 weeks, then another no activity. The male also, he suffers from sleep apnea. And I'm not breaking confidence with her. I've got the okay to speak about this with you. And he was issued with one of these cat masks, I think that they're called, to keep the airway pressure on. But he wouldn't wear it. And the female occupier, she had a growth removed and was also issued one to try and help with the sleep with this one. So on the 5th of April, I'm right with dates. They both decided, yeah, we'll both wear them for the first time. 3 days of no activity. Now that's never happened before. We've had a couple of 2 days, but never 3 days. Is that pure coincidence that both of them are wearing a mask that night and we have then followed by 3 days of inactivity? It's bizarre, I know that, but it's something that was clearly obvious to us. The TV writing is a strange one. I'll go into more detail with that shortly, and I'll show you an example of what it is we're dealing with. If you got a TV, we're used to TV switching on and off, might change channels and so on and so forth. But the trouble with this is where there's over 400 occasions when the TV's either never goes from like 50% volume, it goes from nothing to full volume, switch on, switch off, and will change channels. The female occupier, end of the day, this is quite a hard-working family, this. Well, they are hard-working, not that they arrive from work, they have the tea, the kids are in bed, ready for school, and suddenly they want to sit down, chill down, have a drink, watch a bit of Netflix, and next thing, the television starts to misbehave. But there's hundreds of events that's occurring. We can still suggest, is it electronic? Is it remote control batteries? We tried and looked at that. We haven't got an answer for it. And I don't know a television that's poltergeist proof. I've never seen any of that in the literature. So, but there still leaves the possibility of electronic issue. Where it's not down to electronic issue, when it begins to write things into the search engine, nasty words, die, suicide, multiple swear words. I'm not going to include here, obviously. that isn't down to electronic. That can only be pure simple fraud, or this is a genuine paranormal event here. We've tried everything we possibly can to address this one. We haven't got any answers. If you've got one, please, we're virtually all ears with this one. And the only thing we decided to do with this really is simply record the events. We don't actually investigate it anymore because we don't know what to do, to be honest. This is one of them dilemmas. So you've got anything you can offer to us, please get in touch with me. It's evolved at least 3 times over the last 19 months. You get, when for probably the first 10 months, there were very few raps that occurred. The coins dried up in June of 2023. It used to just simply do misbehave with the television. Then it started to write stuff in the search engine. That then stopped. And we never had any television problems for a number of months. Then the raps returned. So it seems to be almost as if one poltergeist moves out and it's replaced by another. And as you begin to document this, you see these changes very, very quickly. It used to be super elusive. You were nearly always trying to chase shadows with this thing. So, for example, if we take the kitchen, which is where it's most active this year, is no matter where you put your camera. So we put it initially on the window ledge looking through the kitchen. Then it would do things in the blind spot, just to the left-hand side, just to the right-hand side. So you then shift it to the other side of the room. It then does a similar thing, just to the left, just to the right. Put it in the top corner, because what you can't do with cameras is cover 100% of the room. It's impossible. And you can't put 2 CCTV cameras into the same room because they're both infrared and they'll start to white out each other. So what you'll see tonight is when it changed from being elusive stuff slightly off camera, you might see the object being flung onto the floor, even though there's no one in the room, but you never actually see it when it launches it. You don't see the launch pod. But more lately this year, it's become more blatant. It's not that bothered. It's no longer, it seems to be camera shy. And you'll see some of them examples tonight. It has a temper. It's very difficult when you investigate ever-changing phenomena. And we did have an opportunity when, because it drives the lady household, the batty with the TV, what we decided to do is what we're going to do in future, we're not going to investigate it, but what we can do is apply a bit of self-help. Let's see if we can stop it. And the easiest thing in the world is allow it to turn the volume up once. Then if it changes your Netflix channel second time within, say, 10, 15 minutes, unplug the TV. This was tried some months ago, and you'll see the result of this is when it lost its temper within 10 minutes of occurring. Jens, Kim, myself, and Karen were all on the ASSAP webinar when this happened. As my colleague, Amanda Griffiths, dealt with it. But you'll see what happened when we tried that one. So the family now just won't unplug it because they're fearful of what then happens when it loses its temper. The male occupant appears to be targeted. It's not been overly aggressive, but it has, if anyone's been targeted, items being thrown at him, for example, it's the male occupier. It generally leaves the younger children alone. That has changed over the last 4 to 5 months. The youngest child is 12, and what we're seeing now is they've got a little bit older because we've grown up with these two kids. We've been around for 20 months, and there's just bits of things that I'm beginning to think now, how you now included them, particularly when you're dealing with the bedroom phenomena, because it generally doesn't bother with the young ones. The coin reports, they flatlined once we hit it with CCTV. with just only a couple of exceptions, the coins are ported in either into the living room, into the top and bottom hallways. That's generally where they were. So the first thing we do is when we hit it with the cameras, is we put them in there together with the kitchen. The last genuine kind of port of more recent times was the 3rd of June, but the cameras were installed on the 5th of June. Now, some people may interpret that as, well, it's because it's far, therefore happened. Well, no, that's not the case, because we've got literally 160 videos of the coins being reported that the family gathered. Obviously, I can't show you most of them, if not all of them, because they've got family members on there. But rest assured, these have happened before. But it has to be significant that, with the exception of one that's happened just recently, which is the one I'm going to share you with tonight, it generally dried it up. So is it an answer? Is, if you want to stop a poltergeist, is just hit it with a lot of cameras. We did have, or the family had, 9 cameras installed at one point, trying as we begin to chase the shadows. The wrapping, it was divided on for at least 10, maybe 11 months. They've now returned this year. Again, I've got some information to share with you tonight. So when we actually look at general timeline, is we know that the family moved into the property in the January, February of 2015. So they had just over maybe 2 years, couple months of peace. Also, the house itself was built mid-1980s. There's only been 2 families lived in this large 4-bedroom house. The family lived in it before had no activity whatsoever. This family moved in 2015. Nothing for over 2 years, and then it come calling. The numbers are written on there for done for specific purpose is because it ran for 35 months. Then at this point here, in March of 2020, is when it flatlined for 11 months, when the older child became pregnant. Then off it goes again, and we pick up the case around this point here. During last summer, when I was doing the updates, I was suggesting that when we come to November, December of last year, the 34th and 35th month, because we can only map this out based on the movies, images, some messages that were given to us, where we can actually say, well, definitely in each month then something did occur. It didn't flatline, but it certainly evolved, and that's what it's been like this year, up to the point when we're doing this webinar to discuss what is actually occurring. Now, what we've got here is 1,195 separate incidents of phenomena. It's just a number. Can we take this even further? So the diary itself is it. We're probably talking a couple of thousand pages. How you can't expect someone to troll through that lot. So this is where Yinska came into her own, which is when she became our data analyst in some respects. So what we began to do, I'll split this up into 2 parts for you. The first 10 months and the second 10 months. So what you've got is, when you look at the total activity on a Monday and Friday basis, if we go to Sunday, Sundays have always been the most active day of the week. I can tell you exactly how many Sundays have been free for activity. None. Every Sunday in 20 months has been active, including, not last year, but the year before, Christmas Day. What you then see after the Sunday is it falls away on a Monday, fell away on a Tuesday, falls away on a Wednesday, and then it begins to climb Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and the big crescendo on a Sunday. And that's what it was doing. So that stayed with us for around about 10, maybe 11 months. But then over the last period, it's moved into more of a wave pattern. So we've still got the heavy duty Sunday, then it falls away Monday, higher Tuesday, lower Wednesday, higher Thursday, lower Friday, higher Saturday, higher again on the Sunday. So it's moved into more of a wave pattern. I haven't got an explanation for that. You know, if you've got something you can offer, I'm literally going to be all ears with this. Then when we break it down into months over the period, we've got this similar sort of wave pattern, taking the total phenomena as it seems to come at you in waves. When they then break it down into the activity by rooms, the first 3 months, from November, December into the January, when Caroline, Kieran, and Martin were going into the dress for the first time at the end of January, we had a list of things they were going to do. And what I did, I asked them actually focus on this room here, which was called room 4. This is where the majority of the reports were being that came from. Because the family were anxious over the younger ones, if a particular room is active, they would take the younger ones out of it and put the older one in place of it. Awful thing, but that's generally how it worked. And I can remember room 4. So that turned out to be a bit of a red herring, because a couple of months after, it then swapped rooms to room 2, which became the active one. This is the male and female householders room. The living room is always going to be the most active, because that's where most families spend most of the time, obviously. All of this on the kitchen is doing generally this year. Certainly for the first 12, 14 months, when we're speaking to the householders, we say, well, why is the kitchen completely devoid of activity? And then most of the stuff now does occur in the kitchen. And that's just, we're up to like nearly 150 events already. What I'd like you to do is this one here by the stairs. It's the lowest number of reported rooms of activity, which is the bottom of the stairs. All I want you to do is just remember the bottom of the stairs, because that may well prove to be significant. So that's the activity by rooms. When we break it down further, this is just really a quick appraisal, is when we look into it in context, we're talking the TV behaviour, 494 separate events. When we look at items moved, 325 items. It's off the scale. And you're going to see some of these tonight. Is we've had everything from about the size of a Henry Hoover that's moved. That's probably the heaviest item. And it seems to get fixated with areas or objects. So I was actually on the phone to the lady one night when this occurred live, and this was during a period when they were revamping the kitchen area, having a new kitchen installed. So a lot of stuff was put into the living room, and I heard the bang, and she said, "What's that?" So she went into the living room, and there on the floor was one of these Yankee candles, probably size of my cup, something like that, weighing about maybe a kilo and a half. Then a couple of weeks later, captured on camera, is a magnum of champagne, which is next to it. It's something that they had when they're on an anniversary. It's placed on this small window. It's probably 2 foot by 18 inches, both on this window ledge. So the candle come off, and this magnum of champagne didn't hit him, but it was inches away from him. And when we first looked at this, you think, well, is the window blowing up? Well, it opens a couple of inches. It has a wooden blind, but it doesn't move. But this candle flew 25 feet, and it weighs about a kilo and a half. when Dr. Graham Kidd and John Fraser visited the property last year, is one of the questions we spoke about. And when you actually hold these objects that you realise the weight of it and what sort of energy is involved to launch this projectile. You know, the poltergeist now has got its own cupboard because there's so many objects it's thrown about that they now keep them one corner for when we get there again in September. We're going to try some further experiments with it. So it's got its own little cupboard. So considerable amount of items moved. For a period of time, it seemed to got fixated with fabric conditioner bottles. It seemed to be get launched off the kitchen surface was one of them. And for some strange reason, we've had problems with packs of biscuits. Believe it or not. Bizarre, I know, but you'll see such an example. On 3 occasions captured on Ireland CCTV, the packets of biscuits were seen to be just moving, almost as if some sort of mouse or rat was inside it. Utterly strange, and you will see one of them for you tonight. The coin ones were pre-2022, before we got involved. We're around about 465 coins. We've had 56 since that time. The coins themselves are in the safekeeping of the SPR. They were sent over there. Karen Kendrick went through these and she didn't find no dates or anything jumped out that was, yeah, this is generally, there's no clues from that at all. It's still waiting full catalogue and that will be done at some point, but we couldn't find a smoking gun with that one. Most of the coins are either 2 pences or 1 pences. We've had a few 5p's, a couple of 10 pences, I think 150 pence. This poltergeist is a right Ebenezer Scrooge. It doesn't like spending money. I think we'll all be delighted if it started to put a few £20 notes in. But again, over 500 coins. I think everybody, and it's not unprecedented. It has happened before. Certainly, a case was looking at in Bromley back in the 1970s. They dealt with the ported coins. So again, I'll come back to the coins in a short while. I'll show you some of the ones that they found. Voices heard 35, including mimics of family members. This is a strange one. I love EVPs. It's the electronic voice phenomenon. It's what took me into this paranormal in the first place in the 80s. But we've had less than 6, if that. And most of them, if you couldn't give them a class, are quite poor if they are in fact constructed voices. So very little EVP. What we have had is a number of mimics. For example, over recent times, the younger daughter, she was in the hallway, heard her mum shouting her. She goes into the kitchen. Hello, mum, what do you want? I don't know, not shouted her. You just shouted my name. That never occurred. Likewise with the older daughter. One of the other daughters went looking for, we'll call her Emily. Where's Emily? She's been shouting me. You know, she couldn't have been shouting you. She said, well, she just shouted my name. She asked me to come here. Well, she can't. She's on a driving lesson. And about 2.5, 3 months ago, the family got a friend to come stay with them. They lost touch over the last decade or so, and they lived some distance away. So she decided to come down with the daughter. I can give her a name because it, to compromise anybody. Her name was Michelle. I actually took the statement off her. So what they've done is they've been put into the living room, a couple of makeshift beds. So it's about 9:15. The family are up early. I've seen videos where they're up at 5:30 in the morning when things have occurred. So they're into bed early. So about 10:15, Michelle said, I heard my name called, but they didn't use the word Michelle, they used the word Shell. Shell, come here. She interprets that and said it was definitely the female householder. Goes into the hallway, can't see it. Goes in the kitchen, she's not there. Goes up the stairs, shouts. One of the daughters comes out and says, what do you want? Oh, your mum's been after me. Goes in the bedroom. She's asleep. So when I spoke to her, she's utterly convinced that the female householder shouted her. and use a nickname, which is what disturbed her. She used my word, didn't call me Michelle, she called me Shell. That's only used by close friends. Unfortunately, she didn't last very long, and she went back to where she lived. It spooked her because she'd had a couple of other issues that occurred with her as well. So that's the mimicking side. Unusual electrical issues. This isn't just the TV. In fact, that doesn't include the TV. It started to start up the tumble dryer for a couple of weeks, just spontaneously started, captured on CCTV. And the oddball one was the kettle. Now, I'm a compulsive tea drinker. I must drink 20 brews a day. I have never, ever had an electrical kettle ever start up on its own, but it did it twice over a period of about 3 to 4 weeks, but never since. I've never had that sort of thing before, again, captured on CCTV. Items thrown at or towards family member. These are the ones where the family, again, it's their perception that the item appeared to be launched at them and then at a particular moment maneuvered around or fell to the feet. So, but we have had a couple which they've hit target, which we'll go to. Okay, I don't want to spend too long on this, but this is quite an important one because the reason why I say that is we have to be dealing with an energy of some type. I don't support the hypothesis that you're able to manipulate solid matter on thought. There has to be some sort of energy transfer manipulation, I think, for this to occur. And if we are dealing with an energy, then we should be able to measure it, I think. A lot of people, and we'll have a few of them on the webinar tonight, that are generally what they call sensitives. I'm not talking about medium, but sensitive. I consider the female to be more sensitive to feelings than a male. I've got the psychic sensitivity of a brick, literally. I don't feel sense anything. Quite envious of those that can. So what you often find is that when a female will choose to live in a house based on it feels right. Oh, I'm not going to live in that house. It doesn't feel right. And I think with a number of you would have gone to see friends. You walk in, you just sense an atmosphere. Then you discover later that your friends have had a big argument. And is this, again, it's subjective, and it may be practically impossible to measure that sort of sensitivity. So one of the things we wanted to do over there is to look at energy sources. We're aware that there was a subway station close by. We knew there was 4G, 5G monopoles that are available. Is there a source of energy there? So what I did, I hit it with everything I had in my arsenal, really. So what I was looking to do is check out any form of energy that may be present in the property. I'm not just talking general EMF here. I'm looking at 3G, 5G, all manners of radiation, high frequency field devices, mobile phones, spy cameras, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, everything I can think of. Tuck in there as well is various equipment that are more sensitive to it, to general EMF, as well as other types such as a magnetometer, which is something I used to deal with ICI, and as well as accurate measurements for air particles, carbon monoxide, dioxide, and so on. So in total, 600 measurements were taken over. It took us about 2.5 days, the three of us, to work through. And what we actually did, this is an actual graphic of the ground floor. So each, excuse me, just grab a quick drink. What we did a series of random, basically just put cards on the floor, and I then move in and took the measurements, done on another basis, really. So each room, it got a particular number. I then shout out the measurements. And likewise, I'd just like to point you to this point here, which is number 2, which is the stairs. I mentioned this earlier on the lowest point of all of the activity. This is the lowest area of the activity being experienced. Likewise, with upstairs, we can see here over 600 measurements in total. I know the general radiation there, and what I'm looking at is you can make a calculation into something that's more understandable, such as if I hit you with a fancy figure on radiation, you understand. But if I said, well, in that area there, it's equivalent of around about half a volt, you can understand that. So this is where we were going with this. It then took a number of weeks then for Jenske to do her magic and come up with this particular graph. So what you've got here at the bottom, you should be able to see that, okay, that's a kitchen. So you're going to see gradual, maybe half a degree changes. This is temperature. But what was strange with this one was this one here. This is the bathroom at a particular point of the bathroom. And this one here, this temperature spike is actually that square area of the bottom of the stairs. I don't know if Caroline, or I don't think Kieran's on tonight, but I think Caroline's on. She will remember that when she went there in the January of 2023, Kieran, Caroline, and Martin were the first ones to actually go from our side into the property. All of them said the bottom of the stairs felt a bit weird. When we went there in September, Kieran been there before. He was doing the walkthrough forward, followed by Amanda Griffiths. I'm following with the camera. As Amanda gets there, she, on the camera, you can hear her say, "Oh, it feels a bit weird here." I don't notice anything because I have no sense at all. But I do remember this. So weeks after, when we returned from the address and Jansky's put the numbers together, I now start to see this effect. So that's the highest point there, which is the bathroom. This here is at the bottom of the stairs. So we're talking the center is around 2, maybe 1.5 to 2 centigrade difference, then 2 foot to the right, 2 foot to the left. It doesn't make sense why that is the case. When you then look at the actual energy readings, that there, the highest, is the bottom of the stairs. The next highest is here. Now, what's interesting with this is if I go back to to that one, that there is the bottom of the stairs. If I put a pole and go straight through the ceiling, the next point it goes through the next room is the bathroom, which is that. Is that a coincidence? It's almost like a line of unusual temperatures, high temperatures, together with higher radiation levels directly, almost like a channel. But it's also the lowest point of activity. Don't get anything going on there. But it's also the spot where everyone walks into it and begins to feel what it's like. Hopefully, at some point in the non-too-distant future, is Kieran Farrell. He's put together what he calls a Snyder Project. And this is where they want to introduce onto cyclical research is what a person feels when they go into a property together. Is it possible to measure this in energy? I hope all that little bit there makes some sense to you, what it is I'm trying to say to you. If I've confused you, please tell me, because I think this is quite important when we actually looking at, is there something in that house which is measurable? And I think we have. So when we turn there in September, hopefully with the members of the SPR, we might be able to put in more equipment because we'll now be able to lock into a specific area. I do accept that the measurements I took were only that measurement at that point. The following day or an hour later or an hour before, they may differ, but it's something that we only really realise many, many weeks after we came back after the September investigation. So what about our trigger? What we like for time, Yinska?
I believe your time, 8:15.
8:15. Okay,
is that correct?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I'll probably best one. It's going to be probably about 8:45 by the time I finish. So just make sure you're okay. Right, what's the trigger? We mentioned about the house subsided in 2014, and it had to be underpinned. But the family moved in the January, February of 2015. Nothing happened for over 2 years. I'm not convinced. Family member visited the cemetery a couple of weeks before the phenomena first started in 2017. They went in with a group of girls, got drunk, larking about, as teenagers do, you know, a bit disrespectful, but that's what they get up to. They then went back to the property and did some form of hybrid seance. They were all drunk, using candles, larking about. Is that a coincidence why this phenomenon started in 2017? I don't know. No clues in the history so far. The only thing I can say on the history is Kieran Fowle, bless him, he spent a considerable amount of time in the British Library looking into the historical side of the land. The house is built in mid-1980s and it was built on Greenbelt. There's no other building of anything going back in considerable amount of time. We did come across a tide map dated 1760, and it wasn't until we got there last September that we was able to find out roughly where this house was. So I knew there was a river close by. Later tide maps, it's reduced into a stream. A later tide map, then down to a ditch. Then later, about 1880 to 1900, it's disappeared completely. But there was also quite a sizable pond, about 100 meters across, and which was on the first 3 tide maps until it was disappeared, presuming it had been filled in. But we were able to locate it last September while we were there. It's about 150 meters to the back and to the left of the property. This huge pond, partially filled in, but indentation is clearly evident there. So I'm pretty accurate now. I know exactly where the house, what it was built on. And the river, which then become a ditch and then eventually disappear completely, was to about 20 feet, 20 feet to the right. Is it possible where you've got a pond with, because all they need to do is put a channel from the river to the pond to draw the fish into it? Is that a clue? But there's no archaeological information anywhere on it. So at the moment, we're completely blank. The only thing that we have got is the cemetery visit. That's the closest we've actually got of a hypothesis of the trigger of why this started. Or is it something else completely? Is it just generally just spontaneous and it's just luck of the draw when it comes calling? Okay, I've got something to listen to. Those of you on headphones, these are not too loud. When it comes to an audio recording you're going to hear in a short while, it will get loud. So just be ready, just in case you need to pull the headphones up or turn your volume down. And what I've done, this is done for this year. These are some of the raps that have been recorded, almost like a compilation album, really. I've just put them together. It's about 50 seconds of it. And you'll have a listen. Now, the ones that I've used for these samples are where I've been able, because we've got 4 cameras. So if they say, look, we've just heard these 12 raps or 4 raps or whatever, we then look at all the family supplies with all 4 cameras. We can then look at each one. And what I'm looking for is if I can find comparisons between the volumes of the rooms. And at the same time, I've got an eye on the people that are present. So I can account for everybody who's in the house. None of them did these sounds. This is generally what was recorded on the microphone on the cameras at the time. So let's have a listen to its compilation, volume 1. Right, got it going. Brilliant. I really needed that working for the others. I do apologize for that. Right, okay. I presume you can hear me okay.
Perfect.
Right. I thought I might switch something up. Okay, right. Back to what I talk about. So they're the various sounds where we're able to say without question we can account for everyone and they weren't involved with it. Now, some years ago, I was dealing with a potential poltergeist case in Chester, and we were dealing with literally thousands of raps. Dr. Barry Colvin from the SPR, he did some work as regard to raps and theorized that when you get the rapping, such as banging on a table, the sound is being emitted from within the wood rather than impact onto the wood. John Fraser covers this in his Poltergeist book. I think it's on chapter 6, I think. I'm generally okay with that theory, but I've just had to add a different bit to it. Is in the Chester case, what we're dealing with then is objects being thrown about. So what we decided to do is purchase some of these. I know they're controversial cat ball things, but they were flat edge, so we left them lying around on the silent cabinet because it was a business property together on desks and stuff. They then began to be thrown around. We like them because they lit up. That's what then triggered the camera alerts. Now, what I found then was that because we're using the same camera and we know exactly where the object was on top of the filing cabinet, if I'm a spook, I come along and push it so it falls onto the floor, my job's complete. But I don't think that is the case because what we realize is when the object hit the floor is when we then duplicated the event, because we're going to use the same camera, know exactly what's happened, it differs. There's no side frequency. So I theorize then is that some sort of energy that pushes or throws the object, but the energy still is around it, a bit like a set of boxing gloves, the reason why I put that picture up there. So the top left of the screen is a simple knock on a table, and you get this spread of frequency. On the right hand side is a door. It's hollow. It's going to sound hollow. The reason why a lot of bass frequencies mixed in there. This is your rap. It's completely different. I'm helping Rachel Hayward with the case that she has been doing with rapping as well, because I haven't got enough cases with enough raps in there to form a more than a theory. But it does appear on the ones that we're getting at this house, we've got about 170 of them now. So in the diary where I'm putting copies of the frequency, we're seeing this type of performance. So it seems to be that there's no side frequency with it. And this is something that each investigator can do for themselves. So if you've got recordings of rap where you can generally say, this is what it is, send them to me and I we'll begin to work with them as well. Hope all that makes common sense, and I do apologise for the issue with the audio then. So when we now look at the physics, whoops, I'll go back again. What physics are involved with the RAPs? There are a number of questions we can ask. I'm confident that the RAPs differ in performance than what you would do if there's human intervention. There is little or no side frequency. Not all cameras have recorded the RAP despite being closer in volume or the source. So if you imagine like a square, for example, and you put a microphone in each corner and you made a sound in the center, you'd be confident that all four corners pick the sound up. That's not the case. So we've got an unusual situation in this house where the living room, you'll hear 4 RAPs. The closest next camera is a hallway, just about picks it up, but either the top hallway or the kitchen is even louder. And there was a bizarre scenario some weeks ago where the male household is in the kitchen and you hear this boom sound. He interprets that and goes into the hallway. So you can walk it out, kitchen into the hallway, he's looking down, don't know what it is, comes back in. When I then analyse both the hallway and the kitchen CCTV video, it's louder in the kitchen than what it's in the hallway. Yet his perception was it was in the hallway. It's bizarre. Another suggestion that I've seen around is are RAPs some form of selective telepathy. Sounds experienced by members of the family have not been recorded by the camera. We had the banana scenario about 5 months ago where I was looking at all 4 camera videos, and each family members are coming out of different rooms, looking around. Where's this sound coming from? Yeah, no, not one camera recorded it. Yeah, if they say it's probably, well, it wasn't infrasound. If it's ultrasound after 20,000 hertz, then they shouldn't, in principle, have heard it anyway. So what was it that they were experiencing? And all suggested it was like a high-end squeaky sound, but not one camera picked it up. Now, Randy Laybeck, he's now member of the Spontaneous Case Committee, SPI. He's the American researcher. He experienced such a phenomenon in a property in the United States. They were downstairs in the cellar, and they came up onto the ground floor, up the steps. Then all of them here walking up the steps or down the steps. They had multiple recording equipment, including digital recorders as well as cameras, yet not one device recorded it, but they all heard it, several of them, with their own ears. So are we dealing with some sort of projective sound rather than an impact, as we know? The multi-wrapping appears to be accurate and seems to work to a formula. So when we've tried this old cliche of are you a male, 1 wrap for yeah, 2 wraps for no, when the answers come, if it's 2 or 1 wraps, it will be like 10 seconds. Then the next question is 10 seconds. Sometimes the ones that we're looking at for Rachel Haywood, they were 1.5 seconds. So the question was asked, and then the wraps occurred 1.5 seconds later, almost to the millisecond in accuracy. So the multi-wrapping is often time accurate and works to a formula. So we generally only get 2, 3, or 4 wraps in this house, but we have had 12 wraps on one occasion. And when you looked at the actual frequency of each particular wrap, it's almost like looking at a cone. They were perfectly timed by the millisecond between each one, and the volumes were identical. Now, the world's greatest drummer is not going to be able to do 12 wraps on a tom and have all 12 exactly the same. The volume or the difference between the sounds are going to differ. So it seems to work to some form of formula. The source location, practically impossible to find. I was in a property in Pulford in Cheshire where we were hearing sounds, and we were sort of either looking upwards or looking downwards. We didn't know if it was left, right, behind us, in front of us. So the location of the source of the rat generally is difficult to determine. Now, though the way I'm not going to try and teach granny suitcase with this one, but generally, if you hear a sound, both ears will tell us, work out, sound travels on molecules. You hear, yeah, that's coming from there, that direction. So if you're walking down the street and someone drops a pound coin, for example, and it comes to the left, right of you, you will always look, because your brain, with the help of the ears, will work that out for you. If you wear hearing aids, you lose that ability. You can hear the sound, but you don't know where the sound's coming from. So that may be a bit of a clue as to why it is that you hear the sound and you're looking around, what on earth is that coming from? Difficult to work out. And the last big question is, what is the significance of the raps? Why do these still occur? Why did it occur? Why is it they're at the start of a poltergeist case, yet simply dry up as it begins to go into other different types of phenomena? Really, really strange. So if you've got any ideas on that one, I'd like to know. And particularly if you've got any recordings. As far as the coin reports are concerned, we were dealing with around about 460 coins in total. That was before our time. We've dealt with, I think, 56 over the last 18 months. The mostly decibel origin, there have been a couple of small number of non-British coins and of various dates. The coin port stopped when the CCTV system was installed. John Fraser, when he was at the house last September, looked at a particular kind of port that we had before our time, and John was trying to work out is that what you find is with the coins, you can never see the full flight of the coin. It seems to just be there. So in the case of this particular one, you see it hit the door, fall to the left onto carpet, a 5p coin. And John, although it wasn't, I'm not saying for a second that John said this is the done deal. It wasn't, because he said himself that, there's still area of error here. But he generally believed that if that was thrown by a third party, they would have to be within the vicinity and recorded by CCTV. It's not conclusive by any stretch, and it's only right that I point that out. There's a case, but it was another one where we were able to go to some point of understanding where these coins come from. These are 6 of the more recent additions. Generally 1p, 2p, a couple of 5p. That 50p was beginning of the year. That's a Guernsey 20p, seriously, was from Guernsey, and the 10p. Generally come at you in relatively good condition. And the dates are all over the place. So we've got 1992, 2011, 25, 2012, so on. It doesn't seem to be any rational, anything that jumps out, such as majority of 2015. There's none of that at all. Only thing that we do have is generally 1p or 2p. Last year we had a rare 3-coin report. What the family here is, because they should do, they've got plenty of experience of listening to this, is a crack sound. So what you get is like this effect. And then the coins put an appearance in. In this case, it was 2p and a 1p. That's the only multiple coin event that occurred. Now, a few weeks ago, the family returned from a holiday in Turkey on the 24th of June, which was a Monday. Within 2.5 hours of them returning, literally hell broke loose. And this, I would really love to show you all the videos of this, but I can't because it compromises the family members. At some point, that will maybe well be made available, because at some point in time, this case will flatline. And then all the material in the hands of the SPR will probably almost be, the family almost certainly going to donate it to the SPR for future researchers, so members will have access to this. But at the moment, you're just going to take a lot of what I say is, I'm telling the truth. I will show a small clip of a part of the coin, because I don't compromise. You just see his bottoms of his legs, to be honest, because I've had to zoom into it. So this is what the situation happened. They're back from holiday literally for 2.5 hours. They're having a sandwich in the living room. The male occupier has gone into the kitchen to get a bottle of mayonnaise. She's got it in his left hand, nothing on his right hand. He's walking up the hallway to turn left into the living room. And what you see is the coin comes from the right-hand side, smack straight just underneath the eye. Causes some reddening, and there's some swelling there. This is the first occasion when it seemed to be an actually impact of an object. What's bizarre with this is, despite the high quality of the CCTV, is we can't see the coin coming at him. We know all you see is the coin smack him in the side of the face, and then for about 6 or 7 inches over the top of his right shoulder, then it disappears off view. So if I put number 1 there as that's the guy walking that direction, it seems to be coming from the right-hand side of him, which happens to be the bottom of the stairs. Smacks him in the face. It then drops to this right-hand side, which is number 2, which is the first carpet step. So it hits the edge of the carpet and it's underlay. So it's a soft target. You'll see this video shortly. You then see it fire off into the living room, and it's projecting upwards and started to arc back down, which does suggest that the coin at this point still had velocity to travel upwards and then to arc back down, because this, all it is a 1p coin. So it smacked him in the side of the face. It's traveled about 6 or 7 feet onto the edge of the carpet, and it's still got sufficient velocity to go upwards into the living room. We then hear a tinkle, and through experiments that we did then over the following week or so, I was able to ascertain, because we've also got the living room CCTV to use as well for evidence, is that was definitely the coin hitting the laminate floor in the living room. What is absolutely then bizarre is it seems to disappear. And what we see on the living room cameras, or the cameras are in the far corner, is the coin coming from a completely different direction across the carpet, and it must have actually gone up the centre carpet. It's about probably 3/4 of an inch high, gone all laminate floor, up the carpet, and rolled and dropped in the middle of the carpet. That total trajectory is about 65 feet, and it's hit a face, a carpet, the center of the laminate floor, gone flying into somehow into the living room, back again, and then fell onto the center carpet, which is what we captured on the video. So what you're about to see now is this one here. And you'll see what I mean, because at this point, it's hit his face, and it's also at the edge of the stairway carpet before it's then gone into living room. So you will see, because it's his slow down played backwards. So there's quite a couple of images that you'll see. And this is a single 1p piece. So are we dealing with a single coin of an event? Or are we dealing with a multi-coin event, which involved, I don't know. what physics is involved, because we don't see it appear. We don't see it at this point here. And we certainly don't see it here, yet we hear it hit the floor, and we don't see it here. We only see it, this final bit, coming in the opposite direction. So it seems to be an unnatural trajectory and an unnatural speed. Doesn't slow down. So I'll play this one. I can also play it again if you want me to redo it. Watch there. This is the coin. It's come off his face and gone on to the edge of the carpet. Now, what I noticed is on the carpet, something occurs to the fabric. So is it the coin coming onto the carpet? Because we don't see it. And that's what causes this ruffling. Or is it something coming out of the as the coin leaves the carpet? Is that what takes the fabric? So I'll play it one more time for you so you can have a quick look. You see that with the carpet? And that's a 1p coin. Now, I've literally spent hours. I've got a carpeted stairs. I've been throwing coins, 1p coins at my carpet. I can't get it to bounce more than a couple of feet. So this coin seems to have not slowed down and got an unusual trajectory. I accept that you're having to take my word for the story, but believe me, you see it hit his face a couple of inches, carpet, and the one later. At some point in time, I'm quite sure, because I'm almost certainly going to be doing a continuation version 2 at some point in the future, when hopefully we might be in a position then to show you a lot more. So I hope you found that interesting, that one. So what I've got here now, because we all want the juicy evidence for you, is a section of the hundreds of CCTVs and mobile phone videos. Obviously, I've had to apply anonymity. Some of them are even more compelling, but because it compromises a family member, I'm just not in a position to do so. Some of them where I've been able to simply zoom in to a section where I only partly show one of the householders. The reason why you saw the guy's legs, so that's a way I've had to work with it, unfortunately. So it has got a bit degraded, but they're not bad, these at all, really. So hopefully this will give you a general idea of what's occurring in this property. Okay, what happened with this one is the male household is sat where like I am on a breakfast bar. He hears a sound behind and to his left-hand side. Now, what I find interesting with, particularly when we're dealing with multiple cameras and evidence, is the reaction of householders. People have an automatic, subconscious fight or flight. And so if I was to say to you, for example, if you're in a haunted location on your own in a room, and Henry VIII manifested himself in front of you, how would you react? The honest answer would be, I don't know, and we don't. So when something happens to you, we're either going to fight him, or you're going to go into flight and bolt. And you'll generally think it takes a second or so for process before you make your decision. So different people within the house react differently. Now, the male householder is a big lad. He's about 6'2", 20+ stone. He is a big lad, almost like a rugby player. If I was in one of the back streets in Beirut, I'd want him next to me. He's a big lad. His problem is he's having to deal with something he can't see. And so when something happens to him, it makes him jump. So a lot of the events that occur to him, it will catch him by surprise. It's not generally behind him. And you'll see on this video I'm going to show you now, because there is a little bit of swearing at the end of it. It's the only swearing it is. I can't cut it out. It's there. So I'll just make the apologies in advance of that. It's just how he reacts to it. This is where it's a packet of biscuits which he sees moving. It sounds strange, and he hears it. He knows that the camera in the corner can't see it because it's in its blind spot. So he had the sensibility, because we've been down this road before. He gets his mobile phone out, which is exactly what other family members do as well. So on the video CCTV, we see him filming this. So, it's the done deal. So I'll play that for you now. The full video is quite a couple of minutes long, but you'll see about the biscuits.
I can see you moving it. Thank you.
So about swearing. So that you see his reaction. I presume you could hear that okay?
Perfect.
Yeah, excellent. Okay.
Perfectly.
Next one. Okay, this is again on the breakfast bar. Both male and the female occupiers sat having breakfast, I think. No tea. It's covered by CCTV, so we can completely rule out there's no fraud with this. This plastic top, weighs 76 grams, is a rational explanation. This is the difficulty when you've got CCTV evidence to support it. It brings different dynamics and other things you can begin to ask questions. All these objects have been saved and is put into the Poltergeist shelf, ready for us to look at later. So 76 grams isn't lightweight, not amazingly heavy, but you're going to see the object move left. What I suggest you do is lock on to the top left-hand side of the video.
Clean shave? Does she put it in a yes, please, sorry, yeah.
How different people react to it. The lady's not bothered and the guy runs away. Okay. This is a real strange one. This is the one I referred to as regard to the television behaviour. Jens Kern and myself were all on the webinar, ASSAP webinar at the time. So my colleague Amanda Griffiths picked the call up, and this is where the television was going bananas. So what they made the decision was unplug it, read a book, do something else, and stop its behaviour. What then happened, one of the children come down out of bedroom 4 and reported that the light in the bedroom was spontaneously switching itself on and off. Now, I stayed 2 nights in this room last year. Kieran Fowle stayed in as well. This may be a clue as to why this particular room was chosen, if it indeed this was a paranormal event. There's no other explanation. Is the light switch isn't a normal light switch, it's a ceramic type. I found it problematic because it works on just a ceramic light with a coloured light on it. You place your hand on it and then the light will come on or go off. But it was dimming, it was going. I found it a right pain to use when I stayed in the room. What I could never get it to do was switch it on, switch off, switch on, switch off. So when this thing started to occur, the first question we're going to ask is there something wrong with it? So let's go through this lot. I have put some words in it to take you through the story. We did change the bulbs during that night under CCTV surveillance. It only occurred, over 2 nights. On the Thursday night, nothing happened on the Friday. It happened again on the Saturday. What I was going to do on the Monday is, if it was going to continue, I was going to get the light switch changed and have the light switch looked at. However, that it only happened over 2 nights, and it's never ever failed since, and that was over a year ago. So it's a bit weird when this occurs. So hopefully you'll understand where I'm coming from with this. Come to the van and the lights are still going off. Fucking crazy as shit. Bullshit. Okay, so the reason why the male householder left the property is that he can't deal with it. I feel for him. He's a big lad, wants to protect his family, but he can't see it. He doesn't know how to deal with it. And what he finds, if it gets that bad, he just simply goes out into the area where he's parked his car and just has a smoke and just tries to chill down, and then goes back into the property later. And I feel for him because there is a human side to this activity. The victims, very much at the forefront, and a year later, it's never repeated its behaviour. However, about 6 months after this event, we had issues, and in the kitchen, it started to flash that kitchen light. But this time it continued for about 8 or 9 days. Can't remember which one it was. It only flashed when the people entered the kitchen. They're trying to do tea or whatever at night, particularly in winter. And what they ended up doing is purchasing a battery operated torch. So what you see on the CDV is a light flashing his head off, and they switch it off, and they decide in the end take the bulb out, and they use the portable light to overcome the problem. And after about 8 or 9 days, they never changed the lights, they never changed the switch. It just dried up, and it's never repeated itself since. This is a bottle. This weighs a water bottle of 107 grams in weight. A spirit level was used. Again, it was recorded showing the kitchen surface to be absolutely level. The bottles, again, that's been retained for when we get back over there to see if we can do an experiment to try and find a rational explanation for it. At the moment, it's a strange thing that, again, we've got a simple one item that seems to be able to just move on its own, and it does it twice. The first time he moves, it spots it. He spots it. He then contacts his partner, and as he's talking to it, moves the second time. I do put it in text on the video.
Possibly, but we are strict about enforcing our policy, and our employees now.
A water bottle just moved.
Okay, so I'll cover these points anyway. The cameras run for 24/7, kitchen, living room, hallway, top hallway. We can go back as long as we want to in time. So if there's any trickery placed there, magnets, whatever, we'll spot it. So it doesn't happen. And we haven't got an explanation for this. The only closest thing that we've got to it is, was the bottle on top of water? And that's what caused it. I'm not so sure because the later video, it shows the bottle and the surface to be perfectly dry, but it seems to be a spontaneous movement of an object. Okay, I'm going to quickly cover the TV that were a brief short while ago. So the big one is, how does it apply text into a search engine? Now, it's not like a typewriter. What you actually physically have to do with the TV with remote control is you press a button and a keyboard comes up. You then move arrows back and two. For example, if I wanted to, I will put my name, Tony, T, yeah, move it, O, N, and so on and so forth. And it takes time to do it. So when we have tried to use an app, download it onto a phone, for example, we have to be in the room to do it. Once we move outside the range, we can't do it. If there's some fancy method able to do this, then I'm pleased to hear about it. But even then, I have to question that if there is a rational explanation for it, is why on earth would they do so? Because this is monitored constantly with CCTV. On this particular one, is I'm able to account for everybody. The householders at work, the female householder is in the kitchen. The one of the older daughters, she's coming up 18. She's actually sat on the sofa to the right. Obviously, you're not going to see her. I can't compromise this. So what you're going to see is a zoomed in version of the television. So what you're going to hear is she's watching TV. The volume then goes to full volume. If you look at the video, you'll see it suddenly jump to full volume. Ash on CCTV, okay, you're not going to see this, but take my word for it. This is how it transpired. She gets up and she's walking to get the remote control. But before she does so, 9 letters immediately just come into the search bar. We don't know how that's done, because the only way that we can do it is if we were to duplicate that. It took me 36 seconds to put the same 9 letters, no gaps. It's 4 letters. The last 4 letters of a swear word, the middle 3 letters is die. So that gives you a clue of what this thing was writing. So what you're going to hear initially is the volume go to full volume, and then you see the letters put an appearance. It's a little bit hazy, but there's not much I can do with that. Keep your eye on that area there, and here where the volume goes up. There's the volume. It's ready here. And that's where it types. That's where it types the letters. So you see the keyboard come up there and the letters just appear. We can't duplicate that on the remote control, and we can't duplicate it using an app. We don't know how it's done. There have been suggestions of Alexa and all sorts of other theories, but at the moment we have got no explanation for this sort of behaviour. It'll write all sorts really offensive stuff into this this search area, and it's back with a vengeance now. It did dry up for 6 months. On to the kitchen. This is, I can actually blame Claire Davy for this. She's going to laugh at this one, and this is true. As I said earlier, I spot changes immediately. So what actually happened is, on the Tuesday, the 11th of June, was the last recorded activity at the property. On Wednesday, the 12th of June at 9:20, received an email from Claire about doing a webinar. I said, okay, I'll do one on the Poltergeist, but I need to chat with the family to make sure they're comfortable for me to do so. That was followed by 4 days of no activity, unprecedented. So maybe Claire needs to ring the family up every 4 or 5 days, if that's the effect it has. But it's never happened before. The only time it happened is when I opened an email from Claire. So the family have gone bed early. on a Sunday, and they're getting up at quite early. At 4:30, something occurs. Now, when we were over there September, the house had just been completed in the kitchen. They'd had it all revamped, but a lot of money in the kitchen. And there's always anything that leaves an element of doubt. Has there something gone wrong with the shelf that's happened? Because we often come across stories, don't we, about when a poltergeist smashes a house up. How does it do so? They had it at South Shields. And Darren Ritson was telling me recently that they were downstairs. They said this massive, big crash sound. They went upstairs. One occasion they found nothing. On another occasion, this complete chaos up there. So this happens at 4:30 in the morning. Everybody is in bed, but they're just about to be woken up. Now, if you have got headphones on, just be ready for this, particularly because you'll see it on full speed, and then you'll see it on slow speed, and it is incredibly loud. So just be ready for it, please. And again, all these coincidences are beginning to mount up at this point now. That's just what you need a couple of hours before you go to Turkey. So that was the mess that was left behind. Obviously, we're going to ask the various control questions. This is the shelf that come off. There are plugs and the screws are still in place. I'm told that these are more than strong enough to hold a few pans up. And they're the holes in the wall. It seems to have been pulled straight out. So is there a rational explanation to this, or is there something generally strange that's occurred with this event? Because literally, we're dealing with hundreds of unusual events that occurred in the kitchen this year. I think about 150 in total. So we'll have things like spatulas firing out the spatula container. We've had the kettle switching on a couple of times. We've had a knife that was on a butter dish spinning on its own. The water bottle container moved on its own. The bottle top moved on its own. 3 sets of biscuits on different occasions have been moving around. A couple of fabric conditioner bottles launched itself, one after the other. Still, these things occurring. So it's either, if it's paranormal, this has got to be the most unluckiest kitchen that I know about. And what I'd like you to do now is keep your eye on that pink pan. Now, this happened at 4:30, so this is a screenshot that I took off CCTV. Once they clean the mess up, the family have cleaned the mess up best they can. They're just going to put the dishes around it because they're off shortly to go to holiday. 2.5 hours later, the male occupant again is sat on his own, having his breakfast on the breakfast bar. Keep your eye on the pink pan. So we add that to the list. Okay. Here's one that we haven't got an explanation or even anywhere near to a rational explanation. This happened literally 10 minutes after the coin event that hit the male household in the face that we spoke about earlier. When the lady was had located the coin, she kind of did a phone video for me, show me where the coin landed up. what you then heard is this massive bang, and she goes into the kitchen to find that bottle, which that weighs about 4 kilos, and it's this kiddie bubble bath stuff that's there. Then that was where it was placed. Okay, you're going to see the first video when it first occurs. So what I'd like you to do when you see it at normal speed is listen to the first bang, then listen for the second bang, because in principle, that bottle should have come directly off the top surface and just fell onto the floor. Okay, you see it falling down. What happened then is, as we do a lot of stuff, this family is an absolute dream to work with, because everything I ask, they do it for us. So these things happen. I also say, okay, can you take a video of the coin and explanation what's going on? And we've got that. Likewise with this. So the mailer is come and said, yeah, I'll sort this one out for you. And he does a short video for it to explain where the bottle was and where it couldn't have been, to offer at least some answers for you, which I'm quite sure some of you will have at this moment in time. So let's listen to his explanation.
Just a quick video to show you that that's the bubbles there, which landed here, and you can hear it hit this side first, but there is nowhere for it to sit. It can't sit on them shelves because it's way too heavy.
So you got that explanation. So the answer is why did it come from height? Was it somehow projected upwards, fell then bang down onto the kitchen surface, and then obviously onto the floor itself? So let's have a look at it at slow speed now. But we can't find a rational explanation. The thing is, we've got the camera is in this top right hand corner up there. We've got all that. You see it yourself anyway. So there's no human occupation in it. No one's been involved with this, and we don't know how on earth it managed to do this. Here's slow speed. Bizarre. Okay, just coming to the end now. So what I like to do is, those of you that investigate, I know there's a load of field investigators within ASSAP, the organisations are really important to the field. Yeah, if it's SPR, ASSAP, I'm a member of both of them, and I know a high number of you are as well. They do have a high level of expertise that can be found, even if it's on a simple member-to-member basis. So I encourage anyone that's an ASSAP member to become a member of SPR, and vice versa, really, because none of us have got the answers to everything. I certainly haven't, but someone might have the answers to something that you don't. So the reason why we've engaged heavily with the SPR, and I'm engaging with you now, because the whole reason we wanted to do this is some of you will have your own thoughts, things, and suggestions. You might be able to offer advice of things that we can try, because we're hopefully going to go back in September, spend another. The idea behind September one is to go 2-3 days. The family go back on holiday in September. 2-3 days before they go on holiday, while they're away, we're going to move in to do, because I want to continue with some of the experiments on the energy side, and then we're going to be there when the family return and stay there for 2-3 days to experience to see if they have the same sort of effect. What happens? You go away about 3 times a year, and every time they come back, and it seems to just kick it all off again. So if we can, we'd be able to experience that at the same time. So if you do have cases, you're dealing with a case, don't keep it yourself. Engage with trusted allies. There are a number of people on the webinar tonight that I've spoken to, because they have a skill set that I haven't got. So questions that we still got at the start, the main activity mostly from a single bedroom, and it then ventured into the ground and first floor hallway. Then it's changed to living room. More recently, it's ended up in the kitchen, so it seems to move around. Other, where you're dealing with a load of activity in bedroom 4, very rarely get anything, not had anything for months. So it suddenly just seems to switch rooms. Don't understand it. Whew, I've completed. So I hope you found that interesting, not too exhaustive. It was very difficult to try and put a 20-month case together in about an hour and a half. I don't know what time it is now. I've no idea. So over to you, Claire.
Thank you so much, Tony. That's been absolutely fascinating. You might be interested to know that you've been talking for 2.25 hours.
You're joking. Jesus Christ.
And
No wonder thirsty.
It's been worth every second. We're really appreciative
Yeah,
of you.
I'm really sorry about that, Claire. I didn't mean it to go that far over.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. No, we honestly, imagine if we had something like this when Enfield and other cases were going on. Imagine if we'd been able to have this contemporaneous account of things as you were investigating it, and the fact that you're still going to go back to that house and get potentially more evidence. We definitely want to hear how this one ends up. So if you want to come back, we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Because it is late, I
Yeah,
know you're
yeah.
going to have loads and loads of comments on here about how brilliant it was, and people
Yeah.
are going to want to ask you questions. What I had in mind, with my limited tech ability, is if I try and set up something on Facebook, on our ASSAP Facebook page, to invite people to put their
Yeah.
questions
Yeah,
simply
no problem.
about tonight's webinar.
Yeah.
And then obviously you made that very interesting point a while ago, that if you are involved in a case and you want to reach out, you want to talk about it, not keep it to yourself, we can have sort of a group that shares ideas and things and asks you questions about the case. Would that be
Yeah.
okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. Because
Yeah.
there are other people within ASSAP and the SPR that people can approach, if it's Karen Farrell, Yenske for that matter, John Fraser, and others that may have an input, even though it may not be my speciality. One of the others may do so. So yeah, if it's everyone on Facebook, I'm very happy to answer the questions. Yeah, no problem at all.
That's brilliant. I know there will be questions. There are people commenting on every video you showed tonight, every audio clip. And again, thanks for doing that, because I mean, and thanks to the family for allowing you to share it with us, because it's not often we get to see something so pure and of the moment we're living in. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. We can do a part 2 at some point. Anyway, if there's any questions on there, if you can send me the transcript to that, I'll answer them individually, or I can always put a post up on your Facebook page. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds brilliant. Thank you very much, Tony. Next week